It is 6:30 on Monday, June 28th, 2017, and we're going to call the school committee meeting to order. We have a smaller quorum today. A couple of our members cannot be here. Visitors' comments. Are you here for comments, Deb?
I am, very briefly.
Okay.
2 questions. Could you please let me know what the amount was for the deficit for the lunch department this year and last year, please? And the second question was, I was just wondering, the brochure that was passed out or available at the town meeting that would indicate what would happen if we didn't vote, who supplied that? I was just curious. It's curious.
Who supplied it?
Right, who supplied it? Who printed it? Who put it together? Who paid for it? Who put it out? I was just asking.
Yeah, I know, we were just asking. We printed it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's our job to inform the people, so we printed it.
Okay. Out of your budget?
Yes.
Okay, the school department budget.
School committee.
School committee,
School
okay,
committee.
thank you.
Yes.
That's all, that's fine. Thank
The school
Lunch?
lunch,
Deficit.
we don't have the June number
Right.
yet. As of last week,
Mm-hmm.
it is
I'm looking forward
under $10,000 deficit.
This year.
Yes,
Okay.
which is within the contingency that we have, but it is $9,800 something dollars. I don't exactly remember the detail.
I think I've got it here.
You got it?
9,322.
300 something.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
That's it.
All good?
Thank you.
All right, thank
Have
you.
a great
Thanks
day.
for coming.
Yeah.
So moving on to new business, TMS contract.
Yes. So the TMS contract, under the bid specifications, allows us to discuss an extension, a 1-year extension. And it would be my recommendation in working with TMS this year and Mark, specifically, that we do enact that part of the bid specifications, and the contract is in your folder. There would be no increase in the cost of the contract, and it would be the same services, which is TMS being on site twice a week, but available 24/7. So for email or phone conversations, and certainly they are flexible in coming into the district as needed. The other part is TMS business management representation at 1 school committee meeting a month, but knowing that budget season is always more than that. And they were available whenever we needed them.
And it's Mark?
Yes.
Again?
Yes.
That's been confirmed?
Yes.
What was the first part that, just to confirm, it's 2 days?
It's 2 days
committed?
a week on site.
Okay.
And then 24/7 access. So, you know, they may be in a different district on a day, but they certainly are available for a phone call or to answer email, and they do respond within the day.
Is it specific days? I know that Mark
Yes.
is here on Thursdays usually. but-
Usually Mondays and Thursdays. Sometimes it's Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Okay. Yeah. Otherwise, I know that he responds to his emails, just
Yes.
like he did today to an email that I had sent to him. The one thing that I will ask is this: that the business management part of our district is critical, because we need not only the services that we're talking about, you know, the ad hoc requests, and when we ask questions, Mark is doing a good job answering those. That I don't know how it happens in other districts, because I don't remember this district before TMS and when there was a full-time business manager. But at least I at times my expectation is to have some proactive consultation that says, you know, these are things that other districts do. These are things that you should pay attention to. These are stuff that worked out in some other districts, and maybe a creative approach to our budgeting here. it really gets very stressful towards the end of the fiscal year, and once we get into the heat of the budget, that stress aside, it gets very time consuming to get into every database and look. I don't mind doing it because I like playing with data, but I would appreciate some help, some support, some consultation on those, some advice.
Mm-hmm.
The contract remains where it was last year. There is no change, which is $70,000 for the fiscal year. This is a 1-year extension, so it's
Correct.
through June 30th, 2018, correct?
Right, with notification in April 1st.
Okay. Any questions? All good? Is there a motion to approve the contract for fiscal year 2018 with TMS to provide business services?
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And I'll sign that before we leave tonight. We have an item that is a carryover from last time, the kindergarten policy.
So Carol made the adjustments regarding the student having 2 years of documented participation in a formal preschool experience, which was missing from the first. So we read the policy the first time with the correction. This is the printed and would be the second reading, and then so therefore we can have a vote.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we actually read it again with the correction.
Correct.
That's what you're saying.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
so we did not just go from 1 to 2. Yep. One quick. I'm not going to get too picky, but on one thing I think it would be good. The second to last line, it says in the district's kindergarten screening process, there should be an apostrophe, district's kindergarten screening process.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm also wondering if, where the current policy, the last sentence says no waivers or exceptions to this policy will be allowed.
You'd like to add, yeah.
I'd like to add that because I don't want October 1st to turn into November 1st, then turn into December 1st. And I think we need to be that clear
Yes.
with the policy.
That's a good point.
Okay. No waivers.
I think we can approve it as amended though, because we're not making any substantial changes to the language. Or actually, we're not making any changes to the language. We're basically carrying over one from the previous policy and a little punctuation. So we're all good to approve? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the updated kindergarten entrance age policy?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. That's all we have for tonight, right?
Correct.
Okay. So,
Excuse me.
bless you. So is there anything else that?
Bless you. Well, I think it's probably important that we mention the tax override vote, and that we did not get approval from the townspeople. And I will just say personally, as a resident, that I was very disappointed that it didn't pass, and surprised that the yes voters turned out in such small numbers. And I would be interested in hearing any feedback from anybody in town as to why we had A, such a low turnout, and B, why they think it got voted down. Because it feels as though we made a very clear picture of what the situation was gonna be in the district going forward, and we did robocalls and connect-eds, I know the town did, and emails, and Facebook, and social media, and meetings upon meetings, so I personally was just extremely disappointed.
Yeah, I think that goes for all of us.
Yeah.
For something that is critical, the turnout rate was very low. It was 16.5%,
Yep.
and that was it.
And the yes votes, I think, was, half of what the no votes were.
Yeah, it was almost 2-1.
And I don't know, I was, quite frankly, I was surprised.
So that is true. That is true. But I will say one thing, and I share this with a few people right after the vote, when they call the newspaper folks and stuff. We thought we put a pretty clear message out there. I mean, we had a lot of data. We did not use our own data. We went to the neutral party. We pulled everything from the Department of Education website or other state sites. We did not even alter, in most cases, so that nobody would think that we were making changes, except to be able to complement the story. We used the data. We created our own charts at times. Even some of the charts were straight from the state's database. But I have to say, when, as Deanne said, there is so much information that is put out there, yet there seems to be a disconnect. I also find, would like to look in the mirror and try to find out why that message is not really resonating. And that shows that we may have a communication gap as well, not necessarily in terms of channels and number of communications that are going out, but in terms of clarity of that message. And I think it's something that we need to work on. Deb showed up tonight. Obviously, some of the numbers that were questioned, we'll look at the larger picture, and then we sometimes get into the nitty-gritty of numbers. But I appreciate that somebody's showing up, I gotta tell you, to ask questions. And I hope and expect that happens in the presence of other folks as well, or other folks show up to ask similar questions. I'm not saying we're inviting everybody to come and accuse us of things, because really, especially during the last couple of weeks, that got a little old, because everybody had some numbers. No numbers matched, but everybody had some numbers out there, and nobody seemed to have cared about the numbers that we put out there for the most part. So I'm not really interested in getting into that type of conversation, but I think it's sharing everybody's sentiment that I do invite everyone to come here and be part of the process from the get-go, as opposed to waiting till next May to ask those critical questions, because these are not things that we'll learn overnight. These are things that took us a long time to digest, dissect, understand. So we are willing to spend the time to make sure that everybody understands, so everybody can ask questions, not only of us, but also of the Finance Committee, of the Select Board, other boards as well. But we have to start communicating that way much earlier. And same thing with the meetings that we want to have. We mentioned those. If we do go without invitations to those committees to start these conversations early on, then I will put the onus on us. We should just put those invitations out there and invite those committees. Whether they want to join us or not, that's obviously their prerogative. But we should just send those invitations and see how soon we can start those dialogues. That's going to be critical. And for folks who were not following all the conversations that we had, if they have a few minutes to watch this, the impact to the district now is real. it will require us to get together soon to assess and then see how we can redo things. And I was talking to somebody, that gentleman from the Gazette today, and he was bringing up numbers from about 10 years ago, from stories that they had in their newspaper, and how the school district was asking for level service at this amount, and the town's version was about $600,000 or $500,000 less than that.
Mhm.
So all those concepts, it seems to me, they get lost. Level service, lost. The state required minimum, I don't know that is really that meaningful even at this point, because many people heard it for the first time. But what I thought at that time when he mentioned that was that, well, we seem to have locked ourselves in a conversation where it was always the schools are receiving some money from the district, from the state, and we have to live within those.
Mhm.
And when the conversation started with that premise that we will look at the numbers coming our way, the money, and then we'll squeeze education into that, as opposed to this is what we want the education to look like in our town, and here's how much it costs, then we can have the conversation and trim whatever is not necessary. The way Belchertown does it, Hadley does it, South Hadley does it, and Ludlow does it. I'm sure there are many others, but we personally contacted these districts. I think we have to get into those conversations. And I will say one last thing. There are so many things to be said, and it was very disappointing. But when the conversation turns into, you folks want so much money, you have to learn with this and all that. I may be wrong, but it seems to me that everybody is thinking of us, or some individuals, some administration members in our school district. We have to learn to think about the impact on the children, and it has to become real. Because what folks don't realize is that this is a completely volunteer committee. We don't have stipends. We don't do anything. We spend money out of our own pocket for a lot of things. That's why when Deb asked, who spent the money, the school committee for the first time almost this year. In fact, it is probably the first time, except for our fees for memberships for our school committee. That's one of the few things that we spend money on. So we are trying to be as frugal and all that. And when folks say, you know what, you and us, as if we're not part of this community, as if we're not part of this town, as if we're not taxpayers, as if we're not residents, I find that, I used to find that very disappointing, but at times I find it insulting, because it just gets to that delineation of there's a party here, another party there, and just we're debating something that is not about us. We're not here about us. Many of us will not be on this committee in the next several years. We are looking for continuity in the school district. And the only thing that's going to be continuous in this school district will be the children of this town. And that's what folks have to think about.
We hope.
Yeah, and we hope.
We hope.
So, anyway. Yes. My 5-minute disappointment rant.
It's disappointment, and I just share a little bit of the feedback that I've been gathering from Facebook. I'm entrenched in those conversations. Feedback was people didn't know about the vote. No signage. People felt like, well, one of the comments was, I don't feel that the problems have been addressed in previous votes, so why would I vote for it again? And I didn't quite make sense of that. We haven't addressed the issue. The issue is the base budget. When we don't fund a service level budget, you make cuts. And we're over $2 million in the past few years in cuts. And honestly, the only takeaway I can come up with is, do we have to cut athletics to get people to pay attention to the dire need? Because apparently cutting math, science, English, and base core classes isn't raising awareness enough. I don't know. I don't know what that gotcha is. There is no fancy tagline for you need to fund your schools. But anyway, that was the feedback that I've gotten from Facebook. Apparently, signs were really important, but how do you turn that around in 2-3 weeks that we had?
But
It
again,
was
just, we
really
printing
What kind of sign?
printing
I don't
150
know.
pages.
override signs.
Right.
Like, do we have? Where would we even
How much is
get
it cost
the money?
per page? 2 cents.
Yes, 10 cents is what we charge.
Well, that's what we charge, but it's not, it's not necessarily the cost of it. For 150 pages that were printed, if, that can be an issue, who's gonna pay for the signs?
I don't know. That's a great question. So, but that was just some of the folks in town.
So
some of the
that's
comments.
that's the thing. And something else that you brought up, again, just, it came up during some conversations. Hey, you always had this budget issue, or we always had this budget issue, or some budget issue, and then the district's still here. So I was telling to the gentleman that maybe that is just like you are saying. Maybe that is the impression is that, hey, no matter how much we squeeze, something is continuing, and good things are happening, and it's going to be perpetual. Just things always be there, regardless of what it is, because it can be done. Because we've seen how do we create the visuals to explain that so many sacrifices have been made? I told the gentleman to just find a yearbook from 10 years ago and this year and look at the faces of staff members, instructors, and all that stuff. That alone shows how many sacrifices, how many reductions were made, or programs were changed and services were altered. You can only go so far. I mean, if we're going to have this conversation, this is the time to have that conversation. Rest of it, we can only talk about the vicious cycle for so long if there is really no impact, no interest in that vicious cycle, because we don't know. He was asking, what's going to happen? I don't know. Our fingers are cramped because they're always crossed, because we hope that folks will not take this as elimination of something that is important to them, and then leave our district. Then next year we're going to have the same conversation with less money. So anyway, so is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, second.
Second.
Okay.